There are a lot of adjustments to be made and a lot of opportunity for growth. We're already in it. It is shifted. It has already shifted the dimensions and the frequency that's here. And what we're seeing right now is how that adjustment is affecting others. And those of us that are sensitive are feeling the waves of this adjustment day to day, time to time. Welcome to the Spirit and Soul Healing Podcast, where we speak about all things related to spirituality, soul level healing, intuitive guidance, frequencies, and much more. I'm Amy Sikarskie, licensed vocational nurse, past life hypnotherapist, master intuitive energy healer, and a clairvoyant physical channel. Today's episode is brought to you in part by Spirit School Online, where we offer courses in energy therapy, free guided meditations, courses and information around learning to connect in with your spirit guides, and much more. You can find me at amysikarskie.com and offerings at spiritschoolonline.com. Hi, this is Amy, and welcome to the Spirit and Soul Healing Podcast. I'm so happy to connect today. It has been quite an experience in energy the past few weeks, and I wanted to pop on and share a little bit of information that's been coming through. So at the beginning of the year, when there was multiple questions coming through from myself and our community about a year reading. So, could we tune in and see what's going to be in store for us this year? My guides and the Council of Light, they were sharing that would be a lot. Like that would just be so much information to share, and it wouldn't be applicable to everybody in the way that they wanted to highlight certain things. So what they did share was that the next couple of months would be intense, and they shared ways to manage and balance your energy to prepare for those moments. And so if you haven't listened to the previous messages from last month, you can just go back and maybe refresh and get all of those tips and information. So what was really interesting is I noticed that January did ramp up. The energy got very intense, and it's a combination, I would say, of intense energy, a lot of activity in the astral realm, in the collective realm, in the, that mental emotional field of consciousness. And to that, those of us that are really connected and tuned into energy, we were really realizing it. We were feeling it. It was intense. And sometimes it can be confusing. So in my personal life, it got a little confusing when I had an email come through and it popped up on my phone. It came to an email address I don't typically use. It's not like my main work email address. And so I got this notification highlight on my day off, and I glanced at it and started to feel all the energy off of it, and then said, no, I'm not going to read this. This is work. It's my day off. And but yet that energy kind of lingered and stayed around for the day until I was going to sleep that night. And as I was going into those different states of consciousness, falling into sleep, I recognized this energy, and I was like, oh, that's why I was feeling all sorts of ways today. And this can sneak in the sense that if we don't really know what to look for or catch it in our awareness, that we could then flow throughout the day thinking that this frequency would feel as if it belonged to us or pertaining to situations in our life. And, it's just so funny. Like, I've done readings forever. I tune in. I know these things, but I haven't really been affected recently by energies of others because typically I am prepared for the session. I've set my space, and, that's like kind of how I'm flowing. But on this particular day, it was my day off. Like I didn't, really pay attention to my boundary, to my aura. I was just in a very open, kind of relaxed space in my own environment. when this email came in. So that's one thing I wanted to share with you, is that energy can, and it does come through digital means: emails, text messages, social media content, visuals, text, auditorily, video. So, it can just really come through. And also, when you think about your cell phone or your computer, it's mostly in your aura, right? So, like, you're holding it within your energy field. And so, that's also a way that it just, boom, gets right in. So, some of us might not notice anything or pick up energies in that we have a strong boundary and our aura is not tuned into that. It's just not a part of the way we function and flow or our reality. But because I channel all the time and I'm working most of the week, that has, I've been working with this in energy since, well, for like 20 years and heightened about over a decade ago. So I have slowly but surely trained my system to be aware of energy and sensing it. And as a physical channel, although I can clairvoyantly see things, I feel them first and then I will see. But what happened is I didn't really read this full email until later the evening. And then I was like, oh, that's where that all came from. But I was having my typical human day, let's say, off the clock of work, but my energy hadn't put up that boundary for that. So this can happen to all of us when we least expect it. And the message is to have your own personal boundaries in your daily routine, scheduled structure, and practice. And if you've been listening to the podcast, I know this message has come through within the past year. I think it was on the podcast, and it's like, okay, Amy, case in point right here, girl, like you didn't do that. So, sometimes I think we all learn, right? I think we all learn and we have those experiences, and it's like, think about, parents and children. We try and share our experiences and give advice, but sometimes the child needs to experience it to feel the full effects. And then all of their awareness and their sensory system, clair senses and physical senses, it records it, it processes it, it digests it, and then you typically don't forget, right? So I'll let you know how that goes. So I am being reminded through my experiences to be very clear on what energies I am available for. And when we think about that, there really is I'm a healer, right? So that's what I do. I see all kinds of everything, and it's just like a doctor that sees things and fixes it. There's really, we stay neutral in that we don't get emotionally attached or involved. It's like, okay, this is healthy, that's not, kind of that basic boundary or discernment. This is healthy, that's not. This is beneficial, this isn't. This is aligned with my life path and frequency, and that's a distraction. So when we have people come around and maybe they have heaviness or they're going through something and there's maybe even extra energies around them, it's not really a judgment on the person. The way that I work is it's like, oh, well, what's going on? Oh, makes perfect sense, right? But if you don't have that perspective or that training or an advancement with your intuition where you know what's happening, we can easily fall into this trap of mislabeling others, putting labels on them, or saying that it comes through them or from them. Like when I feel something comes from somebody, a way to look at it is that it comes from their personal, intentional choice that they've played out. So, they said it because it's coming from their soul and they meant it. And that can sting, that can hit really hard, or it can be amazing and loving depending on what comes through. But to that, if we're influenced by energies and we start to feel emotions and we feel out of sorts, or we feel, I want to call it shaky, our aura is shaky, our chakras are stuttering and shaky because it's trying to fight off or process or understand, what is this? It's an invasion. It's an invasion of your frequency. Some of the common signs are when you get a little agitated, irritated, a little bit of anxiety building up, and this sort of thing. And so then we tend to spill over, lash out, transfer that energy to another person, and it just goes like dominoes from one person to the next to the next. But as a light worker, and the more we become aware of what's happening, discernment with the energies and regulating our system, when we come into contact with it, we don't ignore it and we try and clear it. So in my experience, this energy that came through, I didn't understand it. And I was going through like everything in my life thinking, wow, what could this be about? Maybe, well, let's just say I knew it was external, but I felt like, oh, maybe it's because I've overcommitted or my schedule's too full, or could it have been this conversation? And so in the physical, I just went through and, like cleared off my schedule a little bit more, exited some conversations, tied things up, and realigned my focus and my intention, my awareness, and where I was going to allow my energy to be, like in a place of time. So it's quantum. You can look at it as time, you can look at it as vibration, but it's a space of being. And where is your energy centrally focused and located? So then clear my energy field and really strengthen within. And in doing that, it didn't release. It was still around because I hadn't really found the source of it. And if you're thinking, geez, Amy, like that's what you do for a living. What are you talking about, girl? Well, this was my day off, mind you. And it already started to cause some disruptions to my schedule because I had to make adjustments after I found this message that came through. And so I was like running late for some appointments, and so I wasn't really stopping to take the time to meditate. I was going through this checklist, and this was the last thing on my mind, that it would be coming from this email. So number one, I won't be answering emails when I'm not working. And I'm going to disengage that notification, right? So for you, like look at the things in your life that you can make adjustments with to prevent it, like just prevent even the possibility of this happening in such an easy way. But the whole day I was driving and going from this activity to that activity, and within it, my heart chakra kept fluttering. And then my solar plexus started like, something's still off. And I would go from appointment to appointment like I was driving. So the one thing that gave me relief was the bass. If you know me, I love music. I love the bass. I have the 212s in my car and I just turn it up and it shakes it out, right? So it was actually creating a dissonance in my field so that energy couldn't sit and deposit on me. So I needed some extra assistance. And I won't get into it because I don't really want to bring anything heavy around or activate anything within that might be in your space. But it was very intense. It was nothing that you normally would deal with or work with. And so that's just a part of my life. Sometimes, like sessions usually when I tune in and have boundaries set in place. But so the email brought through frequencies from multiple streams of consciousness that were unsettling. And, it's just a lesson. It's just an experience that I went through having an off day. And then in the night when I finally got a chance to relax and tune in because it was still there, I was like, that's what that's about. So I wanted to just share that the energy around all of us is in a space of purging is what I'm hearing. And this has been coming through. There's a huge release happening in the collective right now. And so if you're starting to feel frequencies that are so confusing or they're not yours and hey, I've checked myself, like what could this be? Just consider that it could be coming from another source or the collective and go into meditation to release it. Sound works amazing. Scent works amazing. So incense, if you do sage or Palo Santo or aromatherapy, that can help. Anything that really switches the mood. And then mantras, toning, and prayer can really help. So there's some really good playlists. And you can find some that I like to listen to on Spotify. You can search my name. or you can go to spiritandsoulhealingpodcast.com and to this episode, and you will see the playlist listed. But that's another thing. So listening to mantras or actually toning and vocalizing and singing can help clear the energy from within. And also, I just checked in with one of my healers and I was like, hey, can you double check? Like, I just want to make sure I understand what happened now that I had the chance to tune in a more conscious way. And if anything else is like lingering that maybe I missed, right? So it was nice to get a refresh of energy and clarity the next morning. So we can reach out to others and we can work with others and we can work with all of the tools that we have and the resources that we have. But the number one thing I would say is compassion and being kind, yet having boundaries, right? So you can do both. I want to flow back. I think I did touch on that, but it is our responsibility when we have an energy coming around, or let's just say an energy coming around that could influence us in how we treat others. Like there's really no excuse for not taking ownership of the disruption, they'll say, that we transfer or bring to another's life, and to that we don't always mean to. So we live in that space of discernment with high morals and ethics and integrity, and we hold ourselves to these standards. So that is something that I see a lot with Lightworkers and a lot with starseeds and a lot with earth angels. But then I also see some spiritual bypassing that can come in, excuses be made. And so going back to that, like number one, if you're hurting somebody, it's not okay, right? So if they say they've been hurt, like work through understanding that, and is the source coming through the energy and what you're saying, or does it touch a wound within them? And if that is the case, we do not we don't hurt people and continue that if somebody is healing, right? So again, there's no one way as of like, this is the full black and white step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that we do, because every case and situation is so unique and so different. So we go within and we say, what is my ownership in this? How can I assist and help? Or am I being called to step away and put a boundary? So again, it goes to understanding your intuitive connection to source, to your soul consciousness, to the wisdom that you have within. And then you can open to guidance from guides, angels, guardian angels, therapists, or friends in the physical reality in whatever way. So I'm sharing this because I kept getting the message that I'm not the only one experiencing, they're calling it riffraff, riffraff in the astral that's going around and kicking stuff up. And if you have designed your life and if you have lived in a high moral, ethical, and with a lot of discernment and integrity frequency, where you've already said, hey, like I've been through it. I invite in people that have open, honest, compassionate conversations, and I try to limit my exposure to drama, but then it comes around through whatever way, like even in passing by somebody at the store, they're just saying that there's an experience happening right now, and we may or may not get pulled into it or exposed to some of these energies. And they want to remind you about clear connection, conscious awareness, and working with your energy in the morning and at night, especially through the month of February. So with, I would say the enhanced gifts, especially if it's clairsentience and being empathic and physically feeling and emotionally feeling and resonating with the energies, like if we're really sensitive to the energies around us. And if that is especially like that's a part of my job. That's how I read space and work with energy in session. So that's my natural way of it. It's going to feel more intense. So when we have stronger boundaries and tools in place ahead of time in case it happens, hoping that it won't, right? So if you sense something, you ground, you go within, you push pause on the energy. Like if you're like, oh, something feels funny, let me figure this out. put pause on the energy and figure out what it could be, and don't let it come closer or into your space. My guards were down when I looked at this email. I was off the clock. It just happened to get through in some way, pop up on my phone. So I would just share with you that things happen. And again, there's like really no judgment about it. It's just going within, learning some skills in the toolkit so that you can feel consistently energetically clean and at peace. When spirit is around, like source light, your guides, your soul energy, spirit with a capital S, we can feel light and peace. When disembodied beings are around, meaning like ghosts or astral energies that are not functioning in a high frequency is like where our guides are. So earthbound spirits, entities of that sort, or emotions or energy that's deposited in locations, we tend to feel very uncomfortable in those moments, in that physical space or that conversation or that energetic interaction. And that's when the energy can come through, and your chakra, especially your heart and your solar plexus, can be like, whoa, what's happening? What's going on here, right? So this is interesting, but I wanted to share, I guess it's just coming through again. When I work and I see energies, I personally don't really look at the ones that aren't pleasant. I don't need to, because I just know that they're there. I can already sense it. I can feel the presence, and I work with the archangels, and we clear it, and then it all it's just amazing when you're sensitive to energy how things can switch in just a matter of minutes, right? You can feel like you're going from one reality to the next, and an uncomfortable low frequency to, I feel like myself again. So in these moments and in these experiences, I don't really look at the energy because I'm working with a team and they help me. But I do feel the experience that happened for me over the weekend was a learning opportunity also, and for myself to understand what I had experienced. I needed to, for whatever reason, I was given the opportunity to see the energy. And there was a lot of it, and it was not pretty. So, it was just a vision. I didn't feel anything off of it because this was in the process of clearing it. So it was just to my awareness. And then they really brought home, they're like, hey girl, remember, it's going to be through the rest of January and February. And so as you're listening, this happened a couple weeks ago, based on the time probably when this show releases, this episode. So some beautiful messages that I received after tuning in with all of this, and partly from a reading that I had. And I loved this reading that I had from my healer because everything my guides have been sharing came through, sometimes in the exact same wording. So it was really, really interesting. But I would say through a series of channelings, through multiple channelers and my own experience being one of those, there's this message that we are all here for a broad collective purpose and a reason, for sure. Those of us that know we're here to help with the shift. And right now at this time, and then continuing along, we will be called on special projects or assignments, like these little missions or aspects, of the reason that we're here. So whatever our main mission is, there'll be times where we're called to work. And it feels like that is happening for us this year. So energies will be shifting and preparing for it, and the possibilities will help the human you to get through the day in the moment. So that's one thing that I wanted to share. We talked about how energy can be invasive, and a lot of times we know it. And we're like, okay, this very much is visible as to where this is coming from or where it's coming through. And we talked about ways to clear it, and setting your boundaries is a perfect way for that. Self-care is a part of that, right? So don't be reserved or afraid or nervous or feel any kind of guilt for taking the space and time to give yourself those self-care moments and opportunities. What can happen, as I mentioned about being responsible, is that when we feel something is off, it can come in a muddy, energetic conversations and relationships. So if you feel something's off and you're kind of in a mood, maybe take the time to disengage from others until you clear it. And if you need assistance, just be open and upfront about it. So, as we talk about boundaries that we set, we also should hold ourselves to these considerations for others. So, if you call a friend or you text a friend, ask, are you in a space where I can vent? I just need somebody to listen, or I could really use some help processing or understanding what's happening here. To that, the same for direct messages and emails to others, or people that offer this type of work, any type of therapist. It's not cool to like just lay it all out there if you haven't made an agreement or an appointment that that's the role they're going to assist with, and all of this. So when I go and I do my lives, and when I get messages that I'm supposed to share, I feel called to share with collective, I know I'm in that role. It is challenging if there's a bombardment of emails and messages that come through, because I mostly just like say a prayer and put some light to it, because I can't read all of it based on time. That's why I have an online appointment system. And also, and by the way, this is all basic stuff, but I just feel like there's somebody that might need to hear this for confirmation or aha kind of a thing to help them with what they're going through as well. But as we mentioned, these emails can hold a lot of energy. And one part of my frustration was like that night before I really tuned in, I was getting ready for bed, and I was like, man, there's a lot of energy around. Like, where is this coming from? I've taken a lot of my day today to clear things. And I had started the clearing process, but I wasn't fully aware of where it was from until I really tuned in a meditative state and had that chance to do so. So that's also something, so it's really nice to put an appointment. If you are working with somebody that allows bookings online without consultation, then that is a part of the agreement, and you can make an appointment, and there you go. If they prefer to work through consultation, then make an appointment for a consultation, right? But it's kind and considerate so that they can set aside their space of time and adjust their energy to be there for you. And so that's something that really came through as a message, that I had just wrote down like a couple of things. And normally I don't write down podcasts, I just flow. But as the day was progressing, I was getting messages like this and this and this is something they wanted to really bring through. And so I'm just seeing if I've covered everything. Um, yeah. Okay. So if you feel like it's messing with your mood, if something just messed with your mood, it's time to get to the bottom of that. And we look within, and we can go into meditation. And number one, say, does this belong to me? Yes or no? And then based on that, we go in other directions. And if no, when we figure out where it came from, it's like this magical thing where it helps it clear almost immediately or much more efficiently. There can be steps and actions to do, but if we're just clearing our field over and over and not going to the source and clearing it at the source, it can continue to come and bother us. And that was a part of my experience on that particular day. So the other thing is, if it is yours, then you can do your own self-care, reflection, healing through meditations and journalings. Everything I mentioned about working with sound and scent and prayer, or going to see a therapist for assistance. So you can begin to work on it on your own. And that helps us, because there right now, I think I've mentioned, but there's a lot of past life or interdimensional experiences really being activated right now as energy is leaving the planet, as it's purging and its emotions leaving. Many of us will sense and feel it in the collective, like I mentioned, but also if it's our own, it can come up, and it can come up for a review, and it can be confusing. Like, we don't always understand the details around emotions and what we're clearing when they didn't happen in this lifetime. And some of us, even when it does happen in this lifetime, it gets suppressed, especially in childhood. So emotions will come to the surface, and emotions bring information. That's what it is. It's energy and motion, and energy is information. And it's that information releasing. So you would say to yourself, how am I feeling, right? And just feel it and breathe it and express it and let it out. And if that doesn't clear it, then I would work with a therapist or other advanced techniques to help release it. But when it comes down to it, we're here, we're holding our light. We consistently are experiencing our own messages and strengthening our energy. And a lot of healers right now also are flowing into that Akashic healing state. You can get a healing through a reading, but you can also access the Akash and past lives through healing sessions. And it just kind of puts a different perspective or approach to the session. But you can do this, absolutely. And it's happening more and more because some of us will have that soul retrieval moment where we had fragmented and left a part of our light or our empowerment in another reality. And now it's like, okay, we're done with that. Like, I'm done playing that role. I'm done living in that flow or program. And I'm really ready to invite in my soul at another way, like advanced, next level, pulling in inspiration, wisdom, grace, beauty, confidence, assuring, like that reassuring energy within, and that healingness, that wholeness. So that is really coming through too. So it's just active right now, I would say. Like those days that are like, whoa, what's going on here? This is like really intense in not a fun way. And then we'll have the days where it's like, wow, that was incredible. I just got a lot of clarification and messages, and we're ready to flow. We're ready to roll. So I want to just leave this with you because it's been coming up. I hope it gives you something to ponder and think about. I just speak to everybody as if you are in my space as a friend. And I know that this will come to the right listeners at the right time, in the right moment, where the messages are going to be something that's like, oh, okay, I've got that and I know how to implement that. So if this is new to you and it's piqued your interest in awareness, I would encourage you to look at further forms of therapy and clearing, and maybe like get a personal therapist to help you through anything that might be heavy getting through that. Because even the professionals, like any type of therapy, and even in the medical profession, right? We all have people we go to help us. So it's about assistance. We're not meant to do this alone. No, 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 not at all. And also having these conversations and reviewing the messages that have already come through for us can really help us to know that, yeah, I'm seeing this correctly. I don't have a block. There isn't a gap in my perspective or perception because some energy is missing or there's an interference. And that is one reason why I love and I encourage you, if you go to a session, make notes after. And if you go for a reading or an energy therapy session where information outside of this life can come through, or really deep information that layers upon can come through, ask if you can record it, and then you can go back and process it, because so much energy can move and release and expand and just, it expands and releases, and then it realigns. And all of that is happening in a session. So you want to be able to relax and let your body and your energy body and the energy move through you so that everything feel, sense, and be. And then you can use your mental space later to go back and analyze it and integrate it a little bit more. But yeah, so that's all that's flowing through right now. And I hope that it gives you some encouragement and support because, even though this message might have been flowing through, I think it's really, really, really important right now to revisit it and know that if this hasn't affected you, first of all, yay, that's great. Really happy for you. But it could potentially, because they keep showing me that over the next year to 2 years, there's going to be these little pockets of time where different groups of us are called to work in different spaces of energy. And this can mostly what it is it's in the quantum field while you're in the body doing your human day, but your soul is now in the body, right? It's incarnated. So your energy is strong, it's expansive, and you're flowing and you're helping hold codes, ground into this reality and to be present here. And so, in order for us to really make the smoothest, streamlined way of it, we need to govern both realities. What is happening in your physical life that could create distractions or disruptions, kick up stuff? It's like, please heal, get clarity, and then make adjustments to keep things flowing and smooth. And don't get involved in creating karma or getting into other people's karma, because then you're getting pulled out of your light working mission. So, to that, it might be your karma. And then make sure that you take the moment to look at it and do all that you need to do to help clean it up. And it's a balancing of energies, right? A healing and a balancing of energies. So, this lifetime is a big one. There are a lot of adjustments to be made and a lot of opportunity for growth. We're already in it. It is shifted. It has already shifted the dimensions and the frequency that's here. And what we're seeing right now is how that adjustment is affecting others. And those of us that are sensitive are feeling the waves of this adjustment day to day, time to time. So, yeah, I don't really know what else I can say other than thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for bringing your light. Thank you for being really honest with yourself and others and letting that light and the codes integrate and shine through. And I'm going to leave you with a warm blessing and an expression of gratitude. So thank you so much. I'm wishing you the very, very best. And I feel like we're all working together. So I really appreciate it. And I know that our other lightworking families and friends that are here in physical and spirit really appreciate it too. All right, love. Hope you have an amazing day or evening, wherever you might be. And I'll see you again for another message or information and encoded frequencies on the next episode of the Spirit and Soul Healing Podcast.